Hey there, and welcome to the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. It is great to have you join us. This podcast series features those who have gained victory over a life encounter. With that life experience, we encourage those who are experiencing something that might seem to be insurmountable. We advance and encourage others by passing forward evaluated life experiences. We have three objectives in this podcast series. We want to encourage those who are engaged in any type of life encounter by offering to walk with you to help you gain victory over anything that might seem impossible. We want to share our experience to help you. Our second objective is to help you develop a confident resolve that there are multiple options to get past any life obstacle. It's a matter of thinking into the situation. Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you are facing a dilemma resulting from a previous decision you wish you could reverse, we want to help you think into all of the facts and factors involved in making an informed decision. I'm Ron Cooper, founder of the Cooper Culture. I'm with my wife and business manager, Marty. Together, we are the Cooper Culture Company who is sponsoring this podcast series. Today, we feature Constantin Morun, who discusses his background of being raised in a communist country and being raised in an environment where you just don't talk about some things, where you mask, you hide, you don't express yourself, and he does a great job of relating his past and how he is overcoming his past to make a future of coaching and a potential business. He does a great job of being very candid, very genuine with his background. Marty, what are some takeaways our listeners can gain from Constantin?
Ron, our conversation with Constantin felt seamless as he shared his unique approach to personal and professional development. He shared his personal transformation experiences, leaving us with valuable insights and practical strategies for growth.
It's a great opportunity for us all to learn. Let's listen and learn together. Constantin, it's good to have you with us. Our listeners are going to be very interested in learning how you have gone through a period of self-discovery. You maybe now have a confidence you did not have earlier in life. You've experienced different things. You feel comfortable being vulnerable. I know there's four aspects of your self-discovery that you say is a lifetime journey, which Marty and I both endorse. So I'm saying it's great to have you with us. Our listeners are going to be very interested in your story.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Ron and Marty. Thank you for having me on the show.
Can you briefly describe for our listeners, Constantin, where you've been with the emphasis on today and moving forward?
Yeah, so today you'll find me in Canada. I've been living here for the last 23 years or so. I was originally born in Eastern Europe, in Romania. So as you can imagine, during the communist era, there were a lot of limiting beliefs that were instilled in me and certain backgrounds that I brought with me when I moved to what I am today. And it took me quite a few years to get over it. And like you mentioned, Ron, there was a period of self-discovery that I had to go through, and I'm still going through that right now, to truly understand who Constantin was beneath all those layers of conditioning and limiting beliefs.
I use the expression sometimes we hide behind a mask. That is, I don't want people to know who I really am, and we all have various reasons for that. Again, I use the term masking, that I'm going to speak something that is not necessarily myself until I feel comfortable that I really can tell you who I am, what I'm about. And it's okay to be, I use the term appropriately vulnerable, but it sounds as if you came through some kind of a discovery process similar to what I just said.
Absolutely, Ron, 100%. And yes, I had many layers of those masks on me. And it had to do with, again, how I grew up, the environment I grew up in, the grandparents that raised me, the parents that raised me, the schooling system, the society. And it wasn't because they were ill-intended. That's all they knew. And they knew that to make it in that world, back in communist Eastern Europe, you couldn't really be yourself, right? Because people look down on you. They may throw you in jail. They may ridicule you. Those are all things that could happen if you were true to who you are. So I took that to heart. I didn't even question it, to be honest with you, at the beginning. And that's how I lived my life for a very long time. So who I was in my professional life wasn't who Constantin was in his personal life. And even in certain parts of my personal life, I wasn't my true self because I was afraid I would not fit in. I was afraid that people would judge me. I was afraid that people would kick me out of groups or not accept me.
The way I'm processing what you're saying is you were raised in an environment, and we're not here to blame anyone, but after a period of time, you assessed what you used to have and just say, no, I'm not going to carry that forward. I need to change things. I need to be someone who I am not currently. I can do better than what I have. And I don't want to oversimplify it and say something you were not thinking, but were you going through a thought process, something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the last few years, Ron. And I don't think you're oversimplifying it. It is what it is, right? It's like I don't think it matters if you were born in Eastern Europe like I was, or you were born in North America or somewhere else. There's a lot of those beliefs that get instilled in us from a very young age. And again, not because someone wants the worst for us, they actually want the best for us, but they're only teaching us what they know. Yes, it took me years to really come to terms with the fact that, you know what, I'm actually not being true to myself. And what I didn't realize, and this was a big aha moment for me, is that what I was robbing the world off of, meaning that if I'm not true to myself, that means that those around me won't necessarily be true to themselves either. And then we're living this fake life, for lack of a better term. And when I start to be my authentic, vulnerable self, that almost gives permission to others to be as well. So I've had many people come up to me after my journey and as I go through my journey and tell me, wow, I can't believe you're doing that. It gave me courage, or it gave me inspiration to do it as well. And that's what I like to see in the world, where people are not afraid to be who they are in their heart, be below those levels or layers of masking, and then come through. And again, everyone is different, everyone is unique. Your version of yourself is going to be much different than mine, and that's okay. That's the beauty in all this.
I'm going to believe we have listeners who are experiencing what you used to be, and you acknowledge you're still on a journey. Absolutely. Moving forward. But for the person who needs to maybe just take the time to assess where they are not happy with the way things are going. In hindsight, with your life, was it a mentor? Was there, what I'm trying to build up to, was there a turning point, or was it just a combination of things over a period of time that came together and said something to the effect, I've got to change. I have to do whatever I need to do?
Great question, Ron. For me, it was a combination of things. So, like you said, a combination of different things that happened in my life. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I have the American dream and had it for a while, yet I wasn't happy, I wasn't joyful, I wasn't fulfilled. I didn't feel any of those things. And that's what really got me to question as to what am I doing in this life? Am I actually doing what I'm meant to be doing? Am I actually being myself? And how can I get there? And when I became aware of the situation, I would say that was the first step. It's become aware that you're not happy with who you are. You might be happy, and that's perfectly fine, and then you continue on the journey. But if you're not, it's becoming aware and essentially giving yourself permission to go explore. Because one of the things I was very good at is to look externally for validation, look externally for permission. Because as I was raised, and most people are, you always look up to teachers, to your caregivers, to the world for answers. And then what it means is that if we don't start looking inwards for answers, we're going to rely on everyone else to tell us how to be, who to be, and what to do. And again, so to me, it comes down to becoming aware that that's something you want to change, and then building a desire. I look, what's in it for you if you change, but also what's the risk of not changing? So if I stay the same way, well, I'm going to be miserable my entire life. That's not what I want.
Your statement, you were looking for external validation. Some people would say, I'm always seeking someone else's approval. If I don't get that, I think less of myself. Is that a little bit of what you went through?
A lot, actually, to be honest with you, because I don't know why, to be honest, for most of us is the way, but it's a feeling of wanting to belong, or needing to belong, or needing to be accepted. So then we look for validation from others. And it's usually a reflection of how we are inside, right? Like we are trying to validate ourselves, but we don't give ourselves time to sit with what we're doing and celebrate all the beautiful things we've achieved in life and being grateful for all those amazing things that we have. And that's another part of my journey that I discovered a bit later than I'd like to admit, which is being grateful for all the amazing things that I had in my life. And of course, I still have. And then reshaping my mentality to look at it from like, okay, if I want to do something for myself or for anyone else, the first person I need to ask permission from is myself. And that's it. Do I want to give myself permission to be joyful, to feel fulfilled? Okay, so I do. Well, how do I get there? That's the tough question. It's like, okay, now I have permission. Now I know the next step. But that's funny enough, even though that's a tough one, most people will be like, well, how do I go from step A to step B? I find that's the easiest one, because once you have awareness, once you have that desire within you and it fires you up, it gets you passionate, the rest is easy.
One thing you said is very important, and I believe it's a universal truth. We all need and want to be accepted. Someone, and we're not going to be universally 100% accepted, but yet I need to surround myself with those who do accept me. In that context, did you have mentors? Did you eventually find that circle of believers, if you will, that support team, whatever term you would use? Is that what helped you on the road to recovery?
Absolutely, Ron. That's a great question. And yes, absolutely right. I used to be someone that I was a coach or a mentor in many aspects of my life. I love soccer. I grew up playing soccer. So I was a coach and a mentor in soccer all my life. And I did different things in my life. And I was always someone that would coach or mentor. But at some point, for some reason, I was so full of myself that I'm like, I don't need someone to coach me. I don't need someone to mentor me. Until in my later years, when I joined Microsoft, the corporation, and I started working there, when I realized the value of having someone that maybe is a few steps ahead of me, or maybe a lot of steps ahead of me, and learning from them. And not looking at coaching or mentorship as something that only people in sports do, but something that anyone in life can benefit from. Because again, it's helping you with your blind spots. It's helping you see where you could be if you were to go on a journey, and helping you along the way. And for me, the biggest thing I took from my mentors and coaches is challenging the status quo, challenging those limiting beliefs. So to your point, Ron, if we have a universal truth that we want to belong, well, let's challenge that. Why do we want to belong? And then there's a scientific way to look at it, right? Like, as human beings, we evolved in such a way that we need to belong in order to not starve and die. Because if we go back a few hundred years or thousands of years, you had to be part of a tribe in order to be successful in whatever life that was back then, right? In order to be able to survive. So you had to develop a skill to belong. Well, in today's day and age, we still carry all of that. So how do we look at it from the scientific point of view, but also from the more human side of things? Well, like, what you feel inside, the spiritual side, like we talked about, the emotional side, the physical side, and the mental side of it.
I'd be very interested, along with our listeners, to have you work through those 4 points. But in hindsight, the mentor or mentors that brought you through, were they family members, or did you have to actually look outside of family to find those who believed in you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ron. And I would say mentors can show up in many aspects of our life. And I would say my life is not that much different than many others. And I have mentors in some of my family members, even my younger brother, my parents, and some distant relatives, but also a lot of mentors in my professional life. And then later on, when I realized the power of mentorship, I went outside and I started looking myself for mentors or coaches that I can work with. So I'll give you an example. Right now, I'm working with a couple of different mentors, actually, but one of them, she's a spiritual healer, but also a hypnotherapist. So she works a lot with the subconscious mind. So she's helping me truly understand those limiting beliefs that are holding me back or were holding me back in the past, and how to overcome them. So those are things that personally I would have a hard time even understanding or finding information on, but because I have someone that's been through that, that's helped other people through that, she can guide me on that path.
Limiting beliefs. That's a popular topic amongst some, but then there's some of our listeners who don't know exactly what that is. I think limiting beliefs, maybe from my perspective, is something that says, I can't do that, I just whatever. But how would you define your limiting beliefs, and then equally important, how do you overcome those limiting beliefs? Do you have to actually name them and identify them that, yep, this is whatever thought holding me back?
That's a good question, Ron. So the first part of it, what's a limiting belief? Well, let's look at what a belief is. It's something that you see as being true in your life. A limiting belief is something that's holding you back, or something you believe that's holding you back from being your true self. Technically, everything that we believe in is somewhat limiting. And I'll give you a quick example, and then I'll jump into what showed up in my life. If I say I am worth $1 million, right? That's a beautiful belief. And that's a lot of money for many people. But it's also technically a limiting belief, because that says I cannot be worth $10 million or $100 million. So all the beliefs we have are limiting in some factors. Some impact us more than others. So the way I like to look at it, it's almost like I have a box around me. So let's say I want to reach as high as I can. I lift my arm. But then if truly I wanted to reach as high as I could, maybe I go up to the next floor. Maybe I go up on the roof of the house. Maybe I put a ladder up and I go up even higher, right? So it's all in how we box ourselves in and how we limit our beliefs. And how we uncover those, for me, again, it's becoming aware first and foremost, because I didn't realize I had these limiting beliefs. And a good example was when I launched my own podcast, my biggest limiting belief was that who am I to have a voice? Who am I to share my story? Who am I to interview people? Who am I to go on shows like yours, Ron and Marty? And those were limiting beliefs because they were tied to some experience I had in my childhood growing up, where people put me down because of whatever thoughts I had. I didn't realize how much it impacted my choices. And another one would be, oh, I'm stupid because I did this, or I'm a procrastinator because today I decided not to do A, B, and C. And those are beliefs that many people can relate with. And the biggest way to tackle that, or the easiest way for me at least that I have found, is to look for proof of the opposite. So if I say I'm a procrastinator, well, is the opposite also true? Am I not a procrastinator? And then you look for proof of that. So all of a sudden what happens is you're rewiring the way you think about something. For example, when I said, hey, why would someone listen to me? Why would someone want to hear my story? Well, I can look at the reverse of that. Why would someone not want to hear my story? Why would someone not want to listen to me? And then you can find proof. And once I started to think of it that way, to rewire my brain, it's not like those thoughts disappeared overnight, but they got more and more silent. And now that I started working with understanding where in my childhood that's coming from, I'm able to heal that part of me, the emotional side, the mental side, such that it's not going to show up anymore in my life.
You have 4 points, I believe, you work with that help you develop a very positive mindset, but it appears that self-talk might be a part of that. And to help overcome those limiting beliefs, the self-talk might be something to the effect, I can, I will, I just need to make a decision to do that. Am I, again, oversimplifying or maybe making a statement that does not apply to your approach?
No, I think it's good, and I love the fact that you're oversimplifying it, because people can relate a lot easier with certain terms when they're simplified. And you're right, self-talk, self-love, they're all a big part of this, because I've realized that whatever you tell yourself is what you start seeing in your life. And you don't realize it because only 5% of our life is led by our conscious thoughts. 95% is led by our subconscious thoughts. And those that are at the subconscious level means that you cannot physically be in control of them. So if I'm always thinking I'm stupid, then our brain, our mind is going to show us evidence of that. And it's going to remove evidence of everything else. If I say I'm someone that's wealthy, I'm someone that's grateful, and I truly believe that. I'm not just saying I'm going to read some random words and some random phrases, but something I truly believe, then what's going to happen is our mind is going to look for proof of that, because it wants to reinforce the things you believe. And again, it might butt heads with, let's say, your limiting beliefs, but that's when it gives you an opportunity to become aware that something. So let's say I say I'm someone that's grateful, and I feel an emotion around that. That maybe, oh man, I don't know if it's true or not. Well, that gives me an idea right away that there's something I need to work on, because I truly believe I am grateful. But why is my subconscious trying to fight that? Well, there's probably a limiting belief. There's probably an idea deep down within me that needs to come up and for me to analyze and fix.
So as you have gone through what I call a life transformation, you have experienced the fulfillment. You are living, and it's a life journey of improvement, but you're living that fulfilled life, that getting rid of, or at least acknowledging that the limiting beliefs will not dominate your current thought. You're experiencing the benefits of the life of having lived those positive thoughts. Is that a part of what your coaching and mental process is?
Absolutely, absolutely, Ron, 100%. I truly believe once we want to become a better version of ourselves, we want to experience different things in life, we can start taking action. We're going to see that in our life. I went from someone that was fighting depression last year, feeling unfulfilled, feeling a lack of joy despite having an amazing job, amazing family, partner, my dogs, friends, everything you could want, to someone that, yes, occasionally may have a bad day, but most of my days are amazing. I'm learning a lot. I'm a much better coworker in my corporate job. I get to do what I love every day, which is be on shows like this or on my own show or post content on social media to look at inspiring and empowering people. And because I became true to myself, because I call it following your heart, because I follow my heart, I understand my why, I understand my purpose, it's allowed me to make a progress in my life in, let's say, 12 months that I could never even look back. Like it took me 20 years to do almost just as much progress as I did in 12 months. It's because I realigned myself, I understood now what's important to me, and I put it into motion.
So am I hearing you correctly that as recently as a year ago, you were suffering from or you had depressive thoughts, and you're on the journey, and it's not a one day, one talk kind of thing, but it's a process to overcome that. Is that a fair
Right.
characterization?
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, I didn't realize that there were periods in my life when I felt depressed or I was at least at the precipice of that. But last year is when it became very apparent. Most of summer of last year and fall of last year, even part of winter of last year is when I struggled the most. But that's also when I had some of the biggest aha moments in my life, some of the biggest lessons, some of the most beautiful things happen in my life. But at that moment, I wasn't in a spot where I could acknowledge that. In hindsight, it's one of the best things that could have happened to me because it allowed me to see with my emotions, see with myself, and work on these things that were coming up and no longer suppress them. Because, Ron, as someone that's been raised in Eastern Europe and raised in a family or a group where you're not supposed to cry because you're a man, you're not supposed to show your emotions because you're a man, or even if you're a woman, it's very similar because, again, people look down on you. There's all these fears associated with it. Well, I'm a very emotional person. So when I realized that, wait a second, I can be true to myself and not worry about anyone else liking me, because I know some people will like me and I know some people won't, then everything changed. And with my depression, what happened during the time is that I withdrew from friends and from family. I put myself in a box, a smaller and smaller box. And what got me over the hump, so to speak, was realigning myself with what I believe it's in my heart, and now starting to reach out to people, give my friends and family a chance to help, reach out to my mentors and my coaches, even a therapist, and start to work on myself at a level that right now I have no reason to even imagine a scenario like last year, because my mind is rewired. I understand why that was important, but I also understand how to move past it if it ever happens again. And I'm not saying every day is perfect. There are some days where I feel, let's say, down for a moment or two, but now I have tools that help me come out of it faster, much faster.
Self-doubts that lead sometimes to depressive thoughts, which sometimes then lead to isolation in some form, for many of us, combined to limiting ourselves to living a full potential, because various combination of self-limiting thoughts lead to I can't, I won't, I don't see how I can, I lack the perseverance, I lack the stamina, I lack the courage to. Therefore, it's better to isolate. It's better to not say anything. It's better to just get into a shell, so to speak. It's a very common trait among some. If you have ever felt this way, or you've been in the confines of those who do or have, I want to encourage you to reach out, to work with those people. They inwardly want someone to reach out. That's the way I was. I would not tell someone I needed their help. I wanted someone to observe that and prove themselves to be a safe space. Come to me and help me. Let's reach out to others. Were your depressive thoughts of the type that it was just negative thinking, you isolated as a result of your depressive thoughts, or did it go maybe as far as thinking suicide even?
Yeah, suicide never really crossed my mind. I mean, I did question why I was on this earth. What my mission is, like, what's the point of life, right? But really, my depression was more about withdrawing within myself and not caring about anything, because I was like, I don't understand the purpose of all of this. Like, why are we doing this? I mean, I have all these shiny toys and yet I'm not happy. I have access to all of this, I'm not happy. So then what's the point? Because if you have all the things and you're not happy, then what's left? That was my thought process back then, that I had to overcome and challenge.
It's important that you enumerate that or verbalize it, because there are a lot of our listeners who just go through life the way they are. They don't even think of it as being depressive thoughts. It's just they've learned to live with it. And I think it's a matter of awareness. You mentioned that earlier, that as we become aware of some of the things we are experiencing, it is sometimes a matter, you just need to be with some other people who maybe question why you do what you do. And then it's a matter of you accepting, and I think I use the term, we need to be a safe space so that we can openly talk about this. And no, I'm not going to use it against you. It's just that I care about you enough that I want to make you aware of what I'm observing. And if I'm wrong, I'll apologize. But if I'm right, then let's work on this together. Is that part of your approach?
Yeah, but at least a tiny part of it for sure, because you're absolutely right. And one thing that I did all my life, and it's something that helped me get to what I'm today, is have an open mind. But funny thing is, I thought I had an open mind, but then I was still very restrictive with what thoughts I would allow in and who I would listen to. And when I truly opened up my mind, like you were just talking about, looking at different perspectives, allowing people to challenge my beliefs, then it allowed me to grow as a person even further. Travel does that to us, right? It allows us to see different parts of the world and how they live, but yet how similar we all are. But beyond travel is talking to people virtually nowadays more than in person. And that's the beauty of the internet today, is because you can connect with so many individuals and you can understand so many perspectives now. That's going to make your life so much better. And you start questioning things. It's like, why am I thinking that way? Why am I acting that way? It's not something I resonate with. And then you can do something about it.
One of the 4 points you emphasize in what is leading your life is the spiritual. Can you talk a little bit about that and just how that works into your life?
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. That's a great question. And the spiritual aspect for me is it's not necessarily tied to a specific religion. I did grow up Christian. I'm still a Christian Orthodox because I was born in Romania. But for me, the spiritual side is a connection to someone or something bigger than ourselves, a connection to everything in the world, to every human being, to both you, Ron, and Marty, to nature, to my dogs, to my family, and understanding there is a purpose for each one of us, right? It's something that for a long time I questioned. I was like, well, what's my purpose in this life? It cannot be to simply grow up, go to school, find a spouse, have a few kids, and then die. To me, it never makes sense. So what is that purpose? So when I combine those things, to me, spiritual means that I'm connected to something bigger, and I have a sacred purpose and a mission or a why in this life. And if I find that, and if I do that, then I can experience a lot more joy and fulfillment. And you mentioned this earlier, but that's how my life is today. I feel that joy and fulfillment every single day, because now I understand at least part of my why part of my purpose, and I can put it into action in everything I do. It doesn't matter if it's my work in the corporate world or if it's my interactions in my personal life.
Purpose is something a lot of our listeners need to know more about, define. I think for me, and this could vary for every individual, a purpose includes your strengths. What are you good at? What brings fulfillment to you when you have completed whatever you've done?
Mm-hmm.
There's some people who haven't gone through that thought process to really determine what their purpose is. I'm believing, Constantin, determining a purpose is not something that's necessarily going to occur quickly, but rather, again, it's a process that let's work together to determine what your real purpose is. And that may be a foundational principle on which we build to live a new life.
You're absolutely right, Ron. It's not overnight. It won't happen. Nothing is overnight. That's the funny thing. Social media these days shows us or portrays an image where things happen overnight. You become this big sensation overnight. You become happier or the happiest you've been overnight, or you find your purpose overnight. It's not true, because it requires work. It requires you changing patterns of belief. It requires you making some changes in your life. And when it comes to purpose or to finding your why, to me, it's looking back at what brought you joy and fulfillment throughout your life. Go back to your childhood. Was it painting? Was it singing? Was it building with Legos? What was it? There's always something you can go back and find. And then look in your teenage years and your early 20s and 30s if you're at that age, right? And you can find those clues left along the way. And that's how I got to mine. I truly understood that, hey, when I learn something and then I share it with people, either in a mentorship capacity or a coaching capacity, I get so much out of it. Even though I'm the one sharing, I get so much out of it. It makes me so happy, brings so much joy and fulfillment. So that's how I came to mine, because I looked at all those things and also looked at my current life. What brings me joy now? Right? And that's what I want to do more of, because if walking my dogs in nature and meditating in nature brings me joy, then why would I not want to do more of it?
If I understand correctly, you do have a coaching business where you are passing forward your evaluated life experiences. How would a person contact you and learn more about you, your business?
Yeah, so a great question, Ron. I don't necessarily have a formal business right now. I just help people that come to me. I'm happy to chat with anyone. You can reach me at Constantin@unleashthyself.com, or if you want to find me on social media, LinkedIn is the best place to connect, Constantin Morun. And I have a fairly unique name, so you'll find me right away. Or I'm on social media on Instagram and TikTok with my podcast, so you can find me there as well. But really, I am in the process of developing a couple of courses and a formal practice where I can actually help people and have a process, because there have been some processes in my life, some frameworks that I used that have really helped me to get to what I am today, but also helped others that I've been able to mentor through my corporate job or in my personal life.
I think you have a lot to offer, Constantin. I'm not trying to be patronizing to you at all, but I'm a believer, Marty and I both. Everybody has a story and life learning that someone needs to hear. And you're only going to identify with, or you'll identify best with, some people. And there are people who need to know and connect with you, Constantin. We'll do everything we can to help promote you. You've got a great life story, and others need to benefit from your evaluated life experiences. On behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for sharing. Thank you for the life you're living. And we look forward to continuing this life journey along with you.
Absolutely, Rob. Thank you so much. I appreciate you both, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Everyone has a need to be accepted, and with that, we also have the hope. We have the freedom to express ourselves with however we're feeling. Our inward feelings are an expression of who we are, at least at that moment, and we hope that we have the opportunity to express ourselves and be open about how we're feeling, have that freedom to express ourselves in a way where we can be accepted by those with whom we are expressing ourselves. It is a matter of listening when we're in the presence of those who want to express themselves, and it is a matter of accepting them even if what they're expressing does not necessarily align with our values, the facts, and so forth, but can we just accept those to express themselves? In many cases, expression is therapeutic. It is a matter of releasing any pent-up anxieties, anything that might be causing stress in our lives. We just want the opportunity to express ourselves. In some cases, after having expressed ourselves, that person might say, okay, got that off my chest, got that out, let's move on. No further conversation is required. Let's move on to something bigger, better, more productive. I just need to relieve myself of the stress of what I'm thinking, and having the freedom to do that is exactly what many of us need. But we need to prove ourselves to be a safe space. We need to prove ourselves to be a good listener. Many of us are not. Many of us do not listen well. We are problem solvers, and in the context of being problem solvers, we too often want to interject with a solution when in fact the person speaking doesn't want a solution. They're not seeking that at all. They just want to express themselves. And how many times has Marty told me, don't bother trying to solve what I'm expressing to you. I just want the freedom to express myself. And it has taken me a while to overcome my problem solution mentality to know that this is not the right time to offer a solution. It's not the right time to be analytical. Just listen and be the safe space to listen and just observe and just say, I love you and I admire you, I respect you in whatever form you say that, but that person can leave that conversation knowing our friendship is still strong. That's what needs to happen. Many times we have limiting beliefs that hold us back, and we're not able to express ourselves with the freedom we would like. Those limiting beliefs keep us from expressing ourselves, such that coaching is what we need to be able to overcome anything of the past, to be able to be the person living the full potential God created us to be. Marty and I are being coached, and we are certified life coaches through the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. Let's get together. Let's schedule a 30-minute complimentary coaching session where we can demonstrate to you our technique to help you overcome and be the person God created you to be. Contact us at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. Let's schedule a session together. We hope we can warrant a 5-star rating with this podcast series. We hope you will want to share this podcast with your Facebook friends, your LinkedIn connections, your Twitter and Instagram communities. The more we share, the greater the opportunity we'll have to learn from and through each other, to learn of our experiences, what did not work, what has worked, what can work well as we're working with others. The more we share, the greater opportunity we'll have to benefit others. We also hope we have the opportunity to speak with your group about our life experiences. I look forward to speaking with your group. You can contact me through espeakersplural.com. Search for Ron Cooper, F4 Pilot. I look forward to an opportunity to speak with your group, to share some life experiences, some funny aspects of our lives, but the opportunity to take some actionable steps to move forward and be everything God created you to be. We look forward to working with you. We look forward to working together.